if you guys don't know what Michael teachings is, it's this channeled body of knowledge that talks about our soul types that we have for our whole reincarnational cycle, and also our overleaves, which are characteristics we take on for each life. So the essence on the left is stuff that stays the same for his whole reincarnational cycle, all his lives. The stuff on the left stays the same, and then on the right, this is the stuff that he's chosen for this life, basically. So I'll just go through each of the things that are on here. So his role is an artisan. So that's like his main role. Artisans are very sensitive uh, and creative. They deal with structure, taking things apart, putting them back together. It's kind of an artisan kind of thing. They're the ones who create culture. Um, they're the natural creative type, but they're very sensitive. They actually have something called input, like 5 inputs. Inputs are like psychic input. Is kind of like what you can think of like when you're plugging in something into the back of your TV and there's this different inputs. It's like you can plug different things that he's paying attention to at once. You can pay attention to 5 different things at once and mix it together in his mind. That's basically what the artisan does. So that's interesting because his energy overall is very like intense, but you might not notice that he has this artisan quality, which is his actual role. So he's actually pretty sensitive, but this is kind of made up for with his essence twin, which is a king, and it's discarnate, which means it's not incarnate right now. His essence twin, it's on the astral plane, which means that he gets a boost of king energy. King is very action oriented, always associated with leadership, very dominant energy. Like dominance is the natural goal for the king, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So he's got that. That's pretty big. He's got priest as his cadence position, so that's more of a spiritual outlook on things, wanting to inspire the great people towards the greater good, to the highest good. And that's kind of what the priest is all about. So he's an artisan king priest mix, basically. He has a little bit more artisan and a little bit of warrior, a task companion that's a warrior. So that's everything from all the role energies from his essence. He's got energy orientation, which means in all his lives, he's mostly focused on the physical, energetic domain of things, as opposed to the intellectual or the emotional. So he orients towards energy, or beauty, it's called also. So that's an interesting thing to look at. Not everybody has energy orientation. His male energy is really high. It's 98%. So 98% male and then 2% female. So his energy is forward moving and like going through in one direction, like getting through obstacles. Basically, is the male energy is single pointed focus and directional. So he's got that really strongly. His frequency is 100, which is the highest frequency you can have. So basically, he's kind of air. His energy is kind of airy, but he zips through things really fast. Like his life is going to be jam packed with activity. Basically, he's got 12 previous cycles, which means that before he was on Earth, he was on 12 different planets and had a cycle on each of those 12 planets, reincarnating over hundreds of lives. So that's actually a lot. Most of the people I have channeled are around 10. So he's a little bit more than most people. So his global job and community responsibility, he's got global job of analysis and a community responsibility of acceleration. Analysis is a mix of scholar and artisan energy. So it's good for studying and taking things apart, really getting to know things on a deep level. So that's his global job. Acceleration is double artisan. So you can see that right there. And then that's everything in his essence. So his overleaves, we'll talk about that, and then I'll sum up everything. So he's in the baby soul age, but that's also known as structure, which means basically if you're in the baby soul age, it doesn't mean that you're like not spiritually evolved, because you can be spiritually evolved in any soul age, but it means that you're kind of the lessons you're learning about like the right way to do things. Like, how do I approach things in a way that's like, it's about like building structure and like taking things apart to the basic components and like analyzing how do I do this the right way is basically the baby soul age and what's focused. That's what the main focus is of that soul age. So that one, if we look at the soul ages, look at this real quick. It's the second of the 5 soul ages that you have in your reincarnational cycle. So it's after the infant soul age, which is where you're just learning about survival, and then you get into structure where you start becoming part of society, learning the rules and how to do things the right way. And then after that, you go into achievement, really focus on achieving as much as you can. Then you go into relationship, which goes right deep into emotions, and then you kind of step back and look at the whole picture and get an understanding of everything. So that's kind of the whole reincarnational cycle. So let's go back here. Yeah, okay, so that's his soul age. He's level 4, so he's right in the middle of the baby soul age. So here we go. His goal is dominance, which is pretty obvious in seeing how he behaves and what he's doing. He's taking a position of influence and leadership. So, he has his own courses and stuff, and he's influencing a bunch of people. People are looking up to him as a leader, unfortunately, because he's created all kinds of problems with the sex trafficking and all that. But yeah, dominance is pretty obvious for him. His attitude is spiritualist, which is open to seeing possibilities and looking at the higher side of things. And then his mode is aggression, which is pretty obvious as well too. It's about oh no. Okay. Yeah, aggression is the most intense of the modes. So it's the energy that's going outwards and it really going through lots of breaking through tasks, going through obstacles. It's aggressive. It's just the easiest way to say it. So if you can see that, he's got dominance, goal, and aggression mode with the King Essence Twin and energy orientation. That's all this King kind of energy going on. So his centering is intellectual, emotional, which means that he processes things firstly through his intellect, and then he that informs his emotional state. So that's kind of the centering he's in most of the time. So his obstacles are stubbornness and martyrdom. Stubbornness is basically like digging your heels in and not wanting to budge from the way you do things or the way you see things. It's a fear of change. So basically, it's like nobody's going to change the way I'm doing things. I'm going to keep on doing what I do, how I do it. And then martyrdom is kind of like an oh poor me. I'm one that's always having to deal with everything, and I take the whole burden of everything. Just becoming the martyr, acting as if you're the martyr. So those are his obstacles. His body types are jovial and Saturnian. Jovial is like the most built one. It's kind of has like that masculine energy to it. Typically, like how it's stereotypically shown is like they're like kind of like the beefy, big, like hairy, balding kind of like look. But it's very expansive. It's associated with Jupiter, so it has kind of like this teacher kind of guru energy to it. And then Saturnian is kind of like stereotypically like Abraham Lincoln, basically. Abraham Lincoln was a Saturnian type. So it's kind of very bony, but tall, like broad-shouldered, and there's a lot of association with leadership with that kind of energy. So, and that one's a very positive energy. Both of them are positive energies of the different types. His quadrant is knowledge. So when he's in a group setting, he's the one that's providing the information to the group. And then his needs are expansion, exchange, and power. So expansion is basically whatever you're engaging in, you want to expand that. You want to add more and more to it. So it's like if I set up this system, I want the system to grow and grow. or like his school, for example. I want this school to grow and grow and get bigger. If I have a business, I want the business to get bigger and bigger. I want to get more and more money. I would just want everything I do to expand and expand. That's expansion. And then exchange is like that he wants some kind of one-on-one interaction with people, where there's exchange of like I'm communicating with you, you're communicating back, we're giving each other some kind of information or attention back and forth. So it's like a one-on-one kind of dynamic. And then power is just feeling like you're in a powerful position of influence. So that's pretty obvious for him too. So yeah, that's his Michael chart. What I can say overall is that some of the most noticeable things are the action oriented king kind of energy. So he's got like the essence twin that's a king, and then energy orientation, dominance goal, and aggression mode. Those are all king oriented kind of energies. But he also has some of this artisan kind of stuff going on, because he's got his main role is artisan. He's got some secondary artisan, and he's got analysis and acceleration, which both have artisan in the global job and community responsibility. He's got intellectual centering, which is also assigned like aligned with artisan. Jovial is an artisan body type. Structure, the structure soul age, baby soul age, that's also very like aligned with the artisan. So he has kind of this aspect of like, let me take things apart and really understand them on a deep level. So that's kind of how he does things, is like really delve into it and like take it apart to really understand things. And it has some creative energy tied to it. But uh, yeah, so those are the main things I'm seeing. Dominance is very obvious. The king energy comes across so clearly, and the aggression mode does too. And the analysis is part of that too, his global job. So yeah, that's it for his Michael chart. And like I said earlier, he's an ESTP, so he's got extroverted sensing and introverted thinking as his main functions. He's got the 378 tri-type in Enneagram, which is the mover shaker. And he's got a lot of Scorpio energy in his Vedic chart: Sun, Moon, Saturn, Uranus. He's got some Aquarius with Mars in Aquarius, Jupiter in Aquarius, a little bit of Libra with Venus and Mercury there in Libra. So a lot of that fits with like the 378 ESTP. Extrovert sensing seems to be aligned with people who have Scorpio, very grounded in the moment, action oriented energy. So yeah, that's it. Andrew Tate's definitely an interesting guy. How I feel about this is like the people I've been studying that I'm really interested in, reviewing through these charts, is they're usually like warriors or kings. For some reason, I'm just like really attracted to understanding the masculine energy with things. Oh yeah, another thing is he has 98% male energy, which I said earlier, but that kind of contributes to his energy and how it's manifested. But yeah, I keep on getting charts, and they end up being kings or warriors. So it's just kind of like I'm doing some kind of study on that kind of shit in this life for some reason. So yeah, interesting guy, very controversial. I'm not really a fan of the way he does things, but it's still interesting phenomenon. It's unfortunate that he's influenced so many people with his views, but that's the nature of the dominance goal. So yeah, there you go. That's Andrew Tate.